Hi, everybody. It's Sophie and Marco Dish Out on the Movies, and today we're talking about Child's Play 1 and 2. Child's Play is a 1988 film created by Tom Holland, starring Catherine Hicks, Chris Sarandon, Alex Vincent, and Brad Dourif. Detective Mike Norris, played by Chris Sarandon, is chasing a suspect, Brad Dourif, and shoots him, causing him to limp. Seeing a toy store, the bad guy shoots off the lock. Quickly wandering through the store, he grabs a good guy doll. Meanwhile, the detective tracks him to the toy store, and again they exchange shots. Norris gets off the final shot. As the bad guy slowly dies, he begins talking in a foreign language. It sounds like a spell, and it's definitely not a prayer. Why would anyone waste his final breaths to spew out this long-winded chant? In a nearby apartment, a boy named Andy is eating his favorite Good Guy cereal. He absolutely wants a Good Guy doll for his birthday, but Mom, a single parent, works all the time as a sales clerk at Carson Perry Scott, a now defunct department store. She's having a hard time finding that doll. So when her friend at work says there's a man outside selling a Good Guy doll in the alley, she jumps at the chance to buy it. Later on, after Andy gets the doll, he discovers that it is magical and that it talks to him. One night, while the mom is at work, Maggie, her friend, is taking care of Andy. She tells him to brush his teeth and go to bed, but Chucky, the magical doll, has other ideas. He wants to watch the TV news. Still hearing the TV, Maggie gets mad and snaps it off. She puts Andy to bed and sits down to read. The magical doll sneaks up, hits her on the head, and sends her flying out the window. This is when that Detective Mike emerges back into the picture. From then on, everything goes downhill for Andy, the little boy who likes his favorite Good Guy doll. Okay, Marco, let's take it away.
Chucky is cool. And he's probably one of the best horror icons ever. He has a very distinct look, and I especially remember the cover art of all the movies when I was younger. They always looked really scary. He has this angry look, and he has the scissors and the Jack in the Box, and I was never allowed to watch the movies, even though I was allowed to watch every other type of horror movie out there. For some reason, Child's Play was off limits. And then I got the box set when I was older, and I never really liked the first one that much. I really liked I know this is kind of weird, but I liked the third one. I liked Bride of Chucky, and I liked the second one. I don't know. I don't know why. But now that I've rewatched it again, I really like this. I think it's a fantastic horror masterpiece, and it has a lot of classic suspense, and all the actors are great. It moves at a perfect pace, even though it's like a 2-hour movie. It moves along like an hour and 30-minute movie. And Chris Sarandon, of course, he was in Fright Night, my favorite movie ever made, and he's in this movie working with Tom Holland again, so of course he still is a little menacing. He comes right. Spoiler alert! I'm just gonna spoil a little thing here. It's out of context. He comes up behind this thug guy in the street, and he just comes up right behind him and boom, pounds him and knocks him on the car. And that reminded me of Jerry from Fright Night. And so, yeah, and this movie had a great ending too. The way that how they kept ending it with certain ways that they did that, and and the line at the end. I won't go into specifics yet, but I just loved how the ending worked out, and the music was great too. It had a really good theme. Well, what do you have to say about it?
Well, I have never seen any of the Chucky movies, so this is my first experience watching both of them, and I thought it was a great idea. And to well, I don't want to say much of anything, but I can't say it yet until we get to the spoilers. But the idea is interesting, and I like it. The idea of using a doll as a piece of horror, and now I guess it's a little more common with all these Annabelle movies.
Ugh.
It's kind of like the girl version of Chucky. Only
Well, actually, that was a real thing based on this actual doll that's kept in this spirit museum. This museum with all these items that are possessed by demons, I guess. And so that's actually real, but this was based on, if you guys don't know, there's an episode of The Twilight Zone with this little girl talking doll, and it's really funny. She never actually talks, but she has this, you know how they had the strings on their back? Well, she had that, and her voice would say responses and say weird things like, I want to kill you, and you're a piece of crap.
Oh yeah, well
So.
there's also Toy Story, but of course those aren't evil toys.
And Puppet Master.
And Puppet Master.
And the demonic toys.
I have never seen any of that. But
So there's a lot.
But it's a very, the doll has freckles and it's wearing overalls and has this cute little t-shirt, and it's kind of like the antithesis of the Raggedy Ann doll, which has red curly hair and freckles, and this doll has red straight hair and freckles and kind of mean blue eyes, and it's just, the Raggedy Ann doll is a good doll, and everybody loved her, and this doll is, well, everybody likes it too. It's just this particular doll is inhabited by a spirit.
Hey!
I won't say anything
Hey!
else. So,
Stop spoiling. But how do you know Raggedy Ann isn't a bad guy? I mean, her name, the name itself, Raggedy Ann. Like, you wouldn't want to screw with her in an alley.
No, this is Raggedy Ann is like my sister doll, kind of like that kind of doll, and I think it started when my sister was a kid, and it's something I grew up with. Stories about Raggedy Ann, and
so what
they
else?
still have Raggedy Ann dolls, but I don't know if people actually get them anymore. But
what did you think of all the different actors? The little boy.
I thought the little boy did an excellent job, and I mean really, and he is piled on by everything, because the doll is bad, and the doll is possessed by a spirit, and of course nobody's going to believe that, and the kid knows that it's magical, but not a good magical, and so everybody blames the kid for everything, which is terrible. And
you knew that was going to happen too.
Of course,
you kept saying, "Oh no, I hope they're not going to blame the kid for everything."
Well, I
oh
was
no.
being dumb because I knew that. I was like wishful thinking, which it is total.
It's
wishful
just a movie.
Thinking. It's just a movie. It's just that I've read so many child abuse articles lately that it kind of makes me nauseous. But it's a good horror movie. I like the idea, and I'd never seen them before, like I said, and I am up for watching new horror. They're new to me, new horror movies. It's fun, and to me, that's what October is about: is Halloween and watching all kinds of scary movies. And that is definitely a scary movie,
I think
a
that
fun scary movie.
that each Halloween it should be either you watch everything is new or you watch just everything you've already seen before. Because if you watch both, it kind of gets to the point where you're just watching too much. You're like, oh, I want to watch that. I want to watch that.
Well, that's okay. It's a long month. It's 31 days.
And
And I think you could wear probably, if you have the time, you could probably watch one a day. And it's just like a Christmas time.
like Cinemassacre,
Like what?
Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. When Angry Video Game Nerd reviewed one horror movie for each day for all 31 days of October for 11 years.
Well, that's a lot.
So, Child's Play is a great horror movie and a comedy, but a lot of people that they say it's a comedy and it's not scary. Well, it doesn't have to be scary to be a horror movie. Like I was saying with it is not a horror movie because it's not only not scary, but everything's just so fake and overpowering that it's not horror. But with this movie, you have some real ideas, and the ideas are what really make this movie good. And I like the voodoo aspect and all the. It was a great movie.
Oh, well, now you just put a little spoiler in there, bud.
I said voodoo aspect. I didn't say anything else.
Okay, well, we'll
It could
talk
be.
about it later.
I mean, maybe the kid does a ritual so that he can get candy for next Halloween.
God.
Alright,
Okay,
so.
well, let's review it, right? Are you ready to
Yeah.
review?
Okay.
Well, I gave it, because it's a new movie to me and it's a new idea, or a new thing, horror, I gave it a sloppy Joe with grated cheese, which to me it's a nice sandwich, can be really good, and it's pleasant enough to eat and fills me up, so.
I give this movie a giant bag of peanut M&Ms and a king-size crunch candy bar. Because when you're younger, you don't think about how much candy you eat. And that's true whenever you get, well, you don't think about it. And a lot of times you get these huge candy bars, these huge bags. That's what this movie really felt like. Like you're getting this gift of candy and chocolatey goodness, and you have the multiple layers with the peanut M&Ms, like how the characters were layered, and the candy bars themselves just representing childhood. So that's my review. That's our review. Now spoiler territory here.
Well, I have two things to say.
No, you don't.
Actually, I do.
You have 2,000 things.
No, I have two things to say. Okay, now we talk about the spirit. I talked about this chant. Well, the thing is, the bad guy that the cop is chasing in the beginning, he is Charles Lee Ray, and he's some kind of serial strangler. And Chucky is the nickname for Charles, so he calls himself Chucky, which is weird. Meaning, it's weird because he finds this guy, and he learns voodoo spells. And these are complicated, long-winded, very exact. The language is just perfect, and he uses this one to transfer his spirit because he's dying. Cop has gotten off. I said he'd gotten off his last shot. He's dying, so he wants his spirit to keep on living. So this voodoo spirit, or voodoo spell, sorry, transfers his spirit into the doll, and he calls himself Chucky. And see, before I ever saw the movies, I thought
Because
that
that
the
was
doll,
his nickname.
right, but before I ever saw the movie, I thought the doll was automatically called Chucky. I mean, all of the dolls that were called Chucky, and then
Yeah.
when I found out they were called the Good Guy dolls, which I think is really crappy, I was kind of surprised.
Crappy in what way?
It's just dumb. It sounds
It's
stupid.
it's supposed to sound stupid, so it doesn't sound threatening.
I mean, this is a doll that wears overalls and a T-shirt. He's called a good guy. Just weird to me. But anyway, so that actually surprised me that this particular doll was called Chucky. Okay, and the other thing I don't like about the movie, and even Marco remarked about it, and it's back to seeing all these bad stories about kids that have been abused. When they have this, when the babysitter, I told you that Chucky threw her out the window. Well, they blame him, of course.
Yeah.
Why would they blame a doll? How can a doll do that? A doll's not living, and they don't know about voodoo and why would they know about? This is Chicago, I think. Why in the heck would they know about voodoo? It's just not something they do. Well, these people anyway.
They need to start doing it, apparently.
So anyway, because they think Andy killed the babysitter, and this is a little kid. This isn't a teenage boy. This is a little kid.
Just think how big that girl was.
He's not even in sixth grade.
I mean,
he's not even fifth grade. He's probably in second or third grade.
He was in second grade.
Oh, okay.
First grade, second grade.
I mean, that's a little kid. They put him into a padlocked institutional room. Why? Because he's a danger to himself.
He's
He's a
threatening.
danger to society.
You don't mess with a little first grader. He's gonna bust you.
They just freak me out. I don't like that part. Okay, how about you, Marco? Do you have anything to spoil about it?
Well, I also think about how big the lady is. I mean, not.
Yeah, compared to the little boy.
She's not fat, but compared to him, it's.
Well, for both.
Very unlikely that he would be able to push her out the window. I mean, Chucky didn't even push her out the window. He scared her into tripping out the window.
Yeah.
And so, spoilers. Well, as I said, I like the way it ended with having to kill him multiple times. Tom Holland even said in an interview that he wanted to kill him off so many times that they wouldn't make a sequel. And it's so funny how they make a sequel like 2 years afterwards, like killing him so many times in so many different ways. Oh, that's not enough to kill Chucky, because they can use his. Well, I'm not going to spoil anything about the sequel yet, but other spoilers. I really don't have any other spoilers. I liked how it had kind of a gangster type of feel, like he had to go, Chucky had to go and hit all of his old partners, that like the voodoo guy and his murder partner. It's like a hit list, and the kids just like complying with them and taking them along. That was really funny, and something that I think the movie should have done more in the sequel. That would have been cool to see some sort of a mafia aspect.
Okay, I think we're done with Child's Play 1.
Number 1. And now immediately after, we're going to do number 2.